In my eternal quest for the worst fighting game of all time, I've stumbled upon a very interesting rabbit hole, one not entirely related to fighting games. You see, I am a patron saint of many different content creators, streamers, YouTubers, what have you. Something every content creator does, I do believe, and via the grapevine sauce, I've found something very interesting. A little company called D3 Publishing. A Japanese company best known for a handful of things, most notably their simple line of video games. Which, if you don't know what that is, D3 spearheaded a multitude of budget titles that were a collaboration with other smaller development studios. These budgets were released all across pretty much every console in existence, and even on mobile as well. These simple games were given limited budgets and required little development time, and as a result were sold on the cheap to prospective buyers, with some being as cheap as 1,500 yen. Even more interesting, however, is since these games were given such small budgets, the dev teams were basically given free range to develop whatever kind of game they wanted to. So this ended up creating all manner of interesting and pretty bizarre video games. The series actually did manage to put out a couple of hits though, most notably the Onichibara series, and Earth Defense Force as well. Today though, I'll be starting with a new little series here on this channel, one that I will simply title D3 Dumpster Diving. Why do this? Well, there are actually quite a lot of these games, and I'd love to try as many as possible. And today we shall start with one that's a nice little crossroads between this series and my classic Search for the Worst Fighting Game. Our first D3 title is going to be Hard Knock High. A 2006 PS2 title, Hard Knock High was developed by a company called Opus, and is a fighting game, and not only that, it's a fighting game with a non-arcade ladder single-player mode, which honestly is something nice to see considering the genre in general has seemed to struggle with distinct single-player content. This one is actually pretty interesting too. So, what's the story with this one? Well, off the bat, you'll be taking control of a character simply called Gang Leader, though you get to rename him to whatever you want. Story goes is there's a city named Bloodfight, and for over 50 years now, teenage gangs from 10 different schools have been brawling in the streets, turning Bloodfight into a total war zone. These gangs are led by big badass bosses, and they fight for control of territory in the city, even though some of them don't mean to? What the hell does that mean exactly? Well, I guess we'll try to figure that out later. At the epicenter of all this chaos, though, is one who is reveling in all of it. A most bodacious badass whose one wish is to become a prime man. Something only achievable by conquering all of the other schools in Bloodfight. That badass's name is not fading in properly with the rest of the text here, but I named him Kinpachi Ramasama. Our fearless protagonist entered manhood high, fighting every strong opponent he came across to conquer the school, and now seizes his opportunity to become a legend within the city of Bloodfight. You're then told what to do in-game and dropped immediately into the main screen as seen here. Bloodfight is dotted with all manner of different locations, and you'll have your run of the game from here. At home, you'll be able to check your gang leader's stats. Oh right, this game has some RPG elements to it. You have these stats right here: arm, leg, grapple, and glare. The first three are semi-self-explanatory, but glare? What's that for, even? I say semi-self-explanatory too, so let me fully elaborate on how these stats work. Each of these stats can be trained at one of the empty locations around the city. You'll train your grapples by crushing cans in the empty lot, for instance. Huh, those look more like barrels to me, but okay, cans it is. For your arms, you'll swing Persian meals, which I can't lie, I never got the hang of this game for some reason. I think I was doing it right at least, but it just never clicked for some reason. Oh well, at least the fail screen is pretty chill. Nah, this ain't you, man. And to train your kicks in the humble tree-lined street, you'll high kick your little shoe off. This is called weather prediction for some reason, and also you nuke an entire town out of existence by doing this. Well, hundreds of thousands are dead. But at least we know it'll be cloudy tomorrow. Perfect weather for a mass funeral. You grind your stats up and nothing really changes about you. Huh. Strange. If you were like me, you most likely assumed that upon leveling an attack type, that attack type would do more damage in combat. Not here. So what does leveling do exactly? I guess we'll have to figure that out as we go too. After training a bit, I decided to challenge one of the random thugs that are constantly roaming the streets of Bloodfight, and here is where the fighting game portion of Hard Knock High commences. Holy shit, you move so quick in this game. This might be the craziest movement I've ever seen in a 3D fighting game. It's so loose and quick. I can't think of any game that moves even remotely like this. As for your attacks, you have a pretty stock, albeit limited moveset. A few different punches, kicks, a simple jab, jab, jab combo, and a grab, but that grab didn't seem to do anything for me. You could block too, duh. It's not a fighting game without that. There's also this special meter, which you have no special to use at the start. Very peculiar. Regardless, I took my meager moveset to the streets and began brawling with schoolgirls and Wish.com Kazuma Kuwabaras when suddenly... That's right, I learned a move. Yeah, so this is what the experience system is used for. As you upgrade your stats, you can learn the techniques the other fighters use, including the bosses even. You can learn all manner of punches, kicks, grabs, and supers even. Some even replace their existing moves, like when my Superman punch was replaced by this swirly twirly punch. I kinda like it, but unfortunately this system is a little bit awkward. For one, you don't really know what moves are attainable, and two, to learn the attacks, you have to get hit by them. Funnily enough though, after getting hit by one of these learnable moves, you get this little cutscene. And then you immediately perk up and hit your opponent with whatever move you just learned. I'd like to comment now that as I was fighting the last boss in the game, I learned his super move and immediately killed him in our fight with it, winning the showdown. Absolutely incredible. Be wary though, any move you learn you can actually lose the knowledge of if you ever lose a fight to anybody. Too much head trauma, I suppose. Pretty sure it's random too, what move you lose. That's no good. So try not to lose, like ever, unless you really hate a move or something. To keep on with the mechanics for a moment, I can't lie, everything here in Hard Knock High is very functional. Everything came out fine, which, yeah, I know, that's a super low bar to clear, but have you seen some of the crap I've played for this series? This one's quite a bit smoother than some of the jankier games in this list, too. To be critical about something, there is definitely a lack of effects for hits and blocking, too, but most notably for the super attacks. Typically in a fighting game, a super, or whatever you want to call it, has a little cutscene on activation letting you know that a big fuck-off attack is about to happen. Hard Knock High does not have that, and it's fucking wild to me that this can just come out of nowhere. Honestly, I don't even hate this, since I feel like it makes your big attacks a little bit more sneakier. I also find it very funny too, can't lie. Though the game does have some minor effects though, like cans falling out of the vending machine when you slam someone into it. Strange priorities for effects though, I won't lie. Anyway, the point of the story mode is to conquer all the schools in the area by defeating their boss, of course. Each of the 10 schools in Bloodfight has its own distinct martial art to deal with too, ranging from sumo to boxing to wrestling and more, of course. And these styles are all represented by the respective school's architecture as well, which is honestly hysterical, and I love how wacky this game was willing to be. Thankfully though, Manhood High's building does not reflect its name. Every so often on the main screen, you'll get a message from one of the school's bosses challenging you to a fight, which unlocks their respective school for conquering. Occasionally the game will also let you know that your school is under the threat of being attacked by a rival school, but I don't think that really matters. My school never got conquered after all. Maybe it could if I was a bit more neglectful. My school was attacked at one point, and nothing really seemed to change. Didn't lose the game or anything. Maybe you just lose followers? Oh yeah, followers. You have them. The number goes up sometimes.
Why? What's the significance? I don't know!
But really, I have no idea what the significance of followers is. They're there, I can say that much. Really though, for being a game about gangs, there isn't much on the gang front here. Or at all, really. It'd be cool if you and your boys could fight for territory in town, and like owning certain locations would give you a bonus of some kind. Like if you own a hospital, you'd get passive health regen instead of just having to rest at home to restore your health. But unfortunately, the gang stuff is woefully unexplored. Budget title. Anyway, let me show you what happens when you move to challenge a rival school. The gang leader will arrive at the gates of the school and scream and divide into the ocean of school punks. You then have to advance up to the boss, and this is what your glare is used for. You give these punks a nice glare so you don't have to waste health on fighting them mano-y-mano.
Oh, their flower power. It's no match for my glower power.
And you laser terrify them till you challenge the boss. The school's hooligans form a ring around you two and the fight commences. Beat them up and the school is conquered. Do this 9 more times and the story mode is clear. Roll the credits and the end slate too, which basically says you're the best fighter but your journey never ends, blah blah blah. Standard fighting game shit. Then the game ends. You can save your game after winning the story mode, and this data can be imported into the versus mode so the gang leader can have a real moveset instead of the tiny one he started with. I do think it's kind of weird how you can't do a new game plus, so you can keep fleshing out your gang leader, but budget title, I suppose. Outside the single player mode, you also have the standard versus mode as well, since that's the real legs of a fighting game, as it were. You'll have access to your gang leader, of course, but additionally, you can also play as all the other gang leaders you fought throughout the game. Called fight mode, this mode is your more traditional 3-round affair, as opposed to the 1-round fights of the story mode. It also has AI functionality, so you can throw AI-only tournaments. Which, well, it's not a required feature for a fighting game. I always think it's a very fun one to have. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Hard Knock High, I think. Honestly, it's a pretty interesting game for being a PS2 budget title, but since it's a fighting game, by all traditional definitions, I gotta put it on the list. I can't lie, this is actually a really hard one to rank. With all things noted and considered, Hard Knock High will end up as a new number 11 on the list. Okay, that's pretty high, I won't lie to you, viewer, but I tend to rank these games mostly based on how much fun I have playing them, and honestly, I've had a good bit of fun playing Hard Knock High. Yeah, it's an incredibly half-baked experience, a budget title with ambitions far beyond what was attainable with the resources presented to them, but honestly, it's a fine skeleton of a game, one that could be very solid groundwork for a fun fighting game in the future with enough dev time and budget, too. Even if it's a half-baked game, I found Hard Knock High to be very, very fun. A piece of that could one day be refined to a finely cut diamond if anyone was ever inspired to do the work, I mean. Anyway though, that's the end of this one. As always, dearest viewers, my name is HadesManticore, and this is your channel, CityStateManticore. Thanks a ton for watching if you did. I'd very much appreciate a like and a comment of any kind too. Feel free to subscribe too, since as always, there's more content to come. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.